Well, let's see what all the fuss is about. I've been hearing a lot of praise about this game over recent years, and I'm ready for new gaming experiences. Not only am I going into Dusk blind, I'm going into the whole genre of boomer shooters blind. Like, I know Doom and Quake are boomer shooters, but what does that mean? What do those games like to play? I don't know. But that's okay. And please state current year here. Going into an experience blind is kind of like a guilty pleasure. There's a story here somewhere about taking down a cult, their motives, and uncovering more and more surprises. But the story kind of gets in the way of, well, this. From my experience in Episode 1, Dusk is a relatively basic and straightforward first-person shooter, mostly straightforward levels, no magic or complicated mechanics, and the few special limited-time use abilities I have found so far are simple and curated for the immediate situation. This is all good, because despite me loving FPS games, I'm just awful at them. So yes, I played on the Go Easy difficulty. The game did not go easy on me. Maybe that's a joke. Let's start with presentation. We have gone the retro graphics route here. Dusk looks like it's running off of a PS1 disc. Classic low polygon aesthetics all over the place, and I love it. Not only do I love it because I'm a sucker for retro graphics in video games, it's also done very well here with a high level of polish. And it does fit into that more spoopy horror vibes that are on display here. And you also can play around with the colors and how vibrant they are to make your eyes bleed to your heart's content. I really love the setting of the game. Rural, farming town, bumfuck nowhere, Pennsylvania. I'm going to claim it as Appalachia, and therefore Dusk gets an extra point for me. And with the low polygon graphics, it is the neat bow on top and ties the entire presentation together extremely well. When it comes to gameplay, what you see is what you get. We got these really cool levels to get through, where we have to find keys to unlock doors to progress through them. We have hordes of enemies in our way, and we have a really cool armory at our disposal to, well, get rid of the enemies. And yes, that is the entirety of the gameplay. However, it is amazing. Oh my god, is it fun. And you are bouncing off the walls like you have just smoked a bunch of crack. You are whizzing through and around these enemies. And you kind of have to be whizzing around these enemies like you just smoked a bunch of crack because they hurt. Even on easy, they hurt. So, Episode 1 takes us through, inside, and down under the town of Dusk. There is wonderful level variety from the wide open cornfields to tight quarters of coal mines. I found Episode 1 to be paced perfectly. It felt like the game was giving me a lot of time to become comfortable with not only the game itself, but what it was going to throw at me. While I was constantly overwhelmed with just being able to, well, survive each level in one piece, I never felt like I was straight up unprepared and unable to overcome each new challenge. One of those challenges, however, is my only real gripe with the entire game. And it's the boss fights. It's a big shame because I love boss fights of every kind. And the offerings here, the whole experience just let me down. There are only a handful throughout the whole game, so the situations do feel unique and special, a good thing. The bosses themselves look amazing and terrifying, another good thing. Their attacks strike fear, as I found myself dying many times over from just one mistake, good. But for some reason, it just didn't come together for me. And again, it's a shame. It just never felt as good as taking down hordes of enemies. Except for one. And I will get to that. I'll get to that one. And if you know, you know. Episode 2 of Dusk, called The Facilities, is where we're going through the... Wait a minute. Where are my weapons at? Tartar sauce. Here in Episode 2, we enter what is called the Facilities, where we leave the spoopy romp Pennsylvania town of Dusk, and we're going into this military-industrial complex with a flavor of gore. Now, I'm a scaredy cat and gore is not my thing at all, but with the low polygon graphics, it doesn't trigger me. It's almost cartoony. Now look, as much as I love the natural progression ramping up the difficulty and challenges presented in episode 2, I never found them as memorable as episode 1 because, well, honestly, we all bought Dusk based off of what we saw in episode 1. I mean, you know what? I'm just going to go into Extra Labs. That's the only thing I care about in episode 2, and that's the only thing you care about too. We're just going into Extra Labs. The best episode in the whole game. Not even close. Escher Labs is the most unique mission in the entire game of Dusk. Instead of hues of reds and browns and that gory, spoopy horror that we've gotten so far, we now get sci-fi horror a la Half-Life 1, one of my favorite video games of all time, so I see this instantly as a plus, as off-putting as it is initially. Now, it's not just the bright colors and sci-fi aesthetic I really enjoy here. I enjoy all the detail, all the furniture and equipment. It really sells that you're running through a overfunded government lab doing a whole bunch of nefarious things. There's a lot of close quarters combat here, which Dusk seems to really excel at. And I also love that as you progress through the level, it becomes more and more topsy-turvy. It just looks like fun. And it is. And then we get to the best boss fight in the whole game, against Mama. Oh my god, I've never looked at her closely. That is horrifying. Oh my god. So it's not just the boss Mama that makes this my favorite boss fight in the whole game. It's also the arena in which it takes place. This arena is just an empty void, vast blackness, and all there is some weird, misshapen platforms being held up by science. So not only are you dealing with the Mama throwing explosive grenades at you, you're also dealing with these weird, misshapen platforms with a whole bunch of explosive shit on top of them, and not fall into the endless void. I think having to navigate both the environment and the boss was incredibly fun. Alright, that's harsh. I loved episode 2. I enjoyed every mission, and it made me a much better player at the game. It's just not the iconic episode 1 or the sheer amount of crack-smoking madness that episode 3 is. Episode 2 does make Dusk feel like one cohesive experience. Episode 3, The Nameless City. This collection of missions takes me to the conclusion of Dusk, and we get to the bottom of what this cult is all about. Or the absolute heights. Or both at the same time. The levels here in episode 3 feel massive and awe-inspiring. They start off with a nice fantasy vibe that I do really like. And episode 3 overall does a great job of building up to a climactic conclusion. About halfway through episode 3, something, unfortunately, becomes pretty obvious. The well of ideas for level design was running pretty dry. Instead of making episode 3 shorter, which I think would have been to the detriment of Dusk as a gaming experience, it appears that the team decided to see what crazy ideas they could shoehorn into the game. Now yes, this does break up that beautiful cohesion that I was just bragging about. The levels here feel like that they're just going off the rails, but it works really, really well. And at one point, the video game itself feels like it's being pushed to what it can pull off mechanically. For me personally, the entire game of Dusk feels like just one mission too long. I am talking about the penultimate level. All it is one giant slog in an arena with wave after wave of every single enemy and boss that you've come across. Now look, I'm not knocking this level as being bad. This is just a thing that I'm personally not a fan of. Unlike many video games, the final mission and final boss in Dusk is one that I found to be quite good. Actually, the final boss was my second favorite in the entire game. But I'm not going to show you any of that. I think that's something that you should experience for yourself as a reward through playing through the whole game that I've spoiled for you up until the very last mission. I should have mentioned something about spoiler warnings in the beginning of the video. Oopsie whoopsie, ooh woo, I made a fucky wucky, a little fucko boingo. And look at me getting this spoopy looking video game out just in time for Halloween. The universe trembles in my awesomeness. And I'm getting faster at this, so that means more videos will be coming out faster. And don't worry, they'll be a lot worse than this. Now, if you feel compelled to like or subscribe based on what you've seen here, I want you to call 911. You are having a mental health emergency.